Hey, and it's time once again for another episode of the CVC Home Service Success Network, brought to you every week by the CVC Success Group. And our mission, our goal with this is to share ideas, processes, different things that you can do to help move your business to the one you dream of and get you to that next level, whatever that next level is for you. So today we're going to be talking about virtual, a couple different things in virtual. We're going to be talking about virtual assessments, and we're also going to be doing something which is virtual service calls. How about that one? Josh is going to share with you how they have done virtual service calls to help customers and actually charging the customer for that virtual help that they offer setting up appointments. So Cheryl, this is an area that's a little bit foreign to you. What comes to mind when we start talking about virtual assessment, virtual inspections, virtual service calls? What's coming through your mind at that point?
Well, a lot of it for me would be okay, can I take the right kind of photos? Can I get the right information into them? Will they be, excuse me, will they be blurry? Is it a time saver for me, or am I just going to do something that they're going to have to come out there and do again? Is it going to be a waste of my time? Would be my question as a consumer.
Got you covered. So those are all good questions. And so everybody knows we have a guest that's running just a little bit late who is using virtual assessments in his business, something he started several years ago. So we're going to kind of explain when Lee Roff gets on. He's going to share with you the virtual methods that he uses. But Josh, until Lee gets here, you were doing something called a virtual service call. Let's explain to people what do you mean by a virtual service call, because you certainly can't reach through the screen and tighten the screw, connect the wire. So tell me about a virtual service call.
So we would use them, because someone would be like, well, can you just come look over my unit before I fire it off? And I'm like, well, if I'm sending out a technician, $200, $300 to go out there, and they'd be like completely shell shocked. I'm like, but that's what it costs to, send someone out there. Honestly, let's just say it's for a pellet stove. Like, if you want me to tell me if it's okay, like, I'm going to break it down and clean it. So I can really get a good idea of what it looks like. Not only that, but I need to inspect the venting, and who knows what's involved in that. But if you just want me someone that's going to tell you how to turn it on, maybe start it, light it, that was, and who has experience, that gets you into the home much cheaper for like probably around $89, and you book it for a 30-minute appointment. Now that customer can't be, there's a certain type of customer that's willing to do that. And it's someone who's already handy, who just needs, some expertise. It's great for how do you light your pilot, if someone wants you to walk you through that with them. I'm trying to think some of the things I've done over the time. We've done a few water entry, not nothing too crazy. But usually a lot of gas services where we find it. It says, hey, how do you sync my remote? How do you use the remote? Those sort of things.
Okay. Well, Lee just popped on. So welcome. This is Lee Roff of Lord's Chimney, Houston, Texas.
Hello, Lee.
Huh?
What's going on?
Doing great. So Houston, Texas, and also has an operation up in Beaumont, Texas at this point, which is kind of close to the Houston market area. So anyway, Lee was actually up in Beaumont this morning, did a presentation for a Chamber of Commerce there, and just got back a little bit late. So, hey, welcome aboard. Appreciate you being here, Lee. So anyway, today's subject matter is virtual assessments, virtual inspections. And to give you a little background, this is something that we developed and promoted back when COVID came out, because we were dealing with a time that it was people did not want technicians in their homes and all the fears that were going on. So we developed a system in that day and time that we called Virtual Chimney Assessments. And a lot of companies may have tried this for a brief period of time, but with Lee has continued and has been offering virtual assessments and has a place on his website and all that and the information. So Lee, does the virtual assessment still work today for you as a business owner?
Yes, it does, but for a different reason. Forever, we've tried to find a way that we could get out to a customer's house and determine if it was a good customer or a bad customer, or if when they're expecting repairs to be $200 and it's actually 20,000, or and not to waste time on those customers, or to get rid of the batteries. I think I just heard Josh talk about it, changing out batteries, stuff like that, or when customers are just not sure, when they don't want to pay for an inspection, it's a way to have a place to go. And then you can sell them on your value because you can see what they're talking about. Because our scheduled inspection rate after a virtual assessment is pretty close to 90%. Meaning everybody I get on, and it's me and sometimes my technicians, for the most part, always schedule a future appointment. There's even times where customers, based on what I can see, will approve a range. And when I mean a range, sometimes it's like $15,000 to $35,000. And they'll say, yes, if it's in that range, the answer is yes right now. Those are customers we want to get to. And I don't want a $100, $150, $200 service charge to get in the way of somebody who's a guaranteed $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 sale. So it allows us to get those ranges approved. We're very specific with, this does not substitute for an inspection. It's not the same thing. I can't put a camera through the computer into your chimney. It's not the same thing. But man, does it actually work for conversion rates?
Yeah. Now, who does most of the virtual assessments in your company, Lee? Does that fall down to you, or who does these?
At this point, it's me. We have one of our head techs, Cody, has done some of them as well with equal success. But most of them are me, because right now, this time of the year, everybody's on the road. Everybody's got a full schedule.
Okay. So to give you an idea here of how this works, Lee, you have a page on your website that explains the process. Is it okay if I share a link to your website page that will show this?
Sure.
Okay. So I'm right now in the comments, I am posting a link to Lee's website where you would set up your virtual chimney assessment. And Lee, as I go down through here, I'm going to kind of explain what's on there, but you really need to go to this, because the first thing is there's a video. Let's tell folks what that video is telling the customer that goes to that page.
The video, which I did like 2 or 3 years ago, so I'm working with long memory. It basically says what this is, that it's not a substitute. It's not like I can't determine if this is fire worthy, but the process and how we can help. And it's about education. So it's about telling them what the process is and how to fill this out.
Okay. And what else? So as we look at this page, we also see that there is an area for them to enter their contact info. Am I correct?
Correct. And I can say, Jerry, this will probably surprise you. Most of the time, my people fill this out, not the customer. Okay. And that's one of the keys to getting a lot of these.
Okay. So your people fill these out. And then there's a place where photos can be uploaded through your website.
Correct. Yeah. Trying to give me as much information as we can.
Right. And then after that, on this page, if you continue to scroll down this page, you'll find that there are sample photos of what you're wanting. It's like you have a picture of inside the firebox, up the flue taken from inside the fireplace, a picture of the fireplace facade, a picture of the outside of the chimney. And after that, there's a link to set up your appointment, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So from these pictures that you are provided, what are you able to tell your customer?
We're able to tell them what type of fireplace they have. We're able to tell them, sometimes you can see rust, you can see cracked panels on manufactured fireplaces. You can tell whether they have gas logs or wood. You can tell whether they have a log lighter or a gas log setup. You can tell if they have some kind of a pilot to light, and you can watch them try to light it. It's not uncommon for some of the pilots, when you have to manually light it, for them to leave that little knob on pilot and not turn it to on. So you
Okay.
seem like a magician when you just tell them to turn it to on and magically it comes on.
Right. So when you communicate with these customers, is this through a phone call? Is this through a Zoom meeting? How do you do this meeting with your customer?
It's a Zoom meeting. That way I can actually see what they're working with.
Okay, so it's a Zoom meeting. And then you say you turn about 90% of these into on-site appointments for inspection and estimate purposes, correct?
Correct.
What's the closure rate on sales from that?
It's higher than normal. And the honest truth is I haven't sat down and looked at that. But because I filter out some of I want a whole new fireplace for $200 customers.
Yeah.
It's a much higher closing percentage out in the field.
Okay. So I'm going to go over to Josh. Josh, what questions or comments would you have on this system? What would you ask Lee about this?
Well, I've got his website open over here, but how are you? Because it was actually a little hard to find the link. It's not right at the top of the bar. So how are you steering them to this?
Most of the time, what happens is Mila, our office manager, whoever answers the phone, when they say, I don't want to pay that, or I would like to just talk to a tech, our office person goes through and fills this out for the customer.
Roger.
So that's the way most of them are scheduled. For initially during COVID, it was supposed to be where the customer goes in here and actually fills this out. Yep. Also, a lot of times we'll literally cut and paste the link into a text message so they can click on it and go straight to the page. But it's very rare for a customer to go in because we've moved that link request all over the place on just to see what works best. And whether it was at the top or whether it's at the bottom was the same. But most of the time, it's our employees filling this out, not the customer.
Okay. So it's just about setting up the screening policies in the office, not so much the customer's actually going to find it. And they're not going to search this service out.
They do sometimes. And a lot of times, like I said, we're sending them a link to it, goes directly to it. But often this is, I have way too many technical questions and the person answering the phone doesn't have the perfect answers. So this is the way they kind of punt to someone who knows more than they do.
Are you doing this because that was part of what I was getting ready to say? Was there's a lot of guys when I had the retail store, there's a lot of guys that'll sit there and just pick your brain for hours about their appliance that have no intention of buying. Are you able to screen some of those people out?
Yeah, I'm able to shield my technicians out in the field from driving all the way out to their house just to get information. Because I don't mind. The whole goal of this was to educate people. That's the whole goal. So I kind of encourage them to pick my mind on a Zoom meeting in this virtual assessment. And it's a way to pre-sell my guys out in the field, set them up for success, and shield them from customers that are not our customer.
Yeah. Do you have a problem with them setting up Zoom, or just everybody understands what Zoom is?
Everybody says is Zoom, and it's interesting because we use Calendly as the link source.
Yep.
So it connects to my Google Calendar. So if I section off, it takes away appointments automatically.
Yep.
So it's live, and I have it set where you can set it where it doesn't do same day appointments; it only does next day appointments. You can sit there and play with the rules.
Yeah, Google's new feature does that too. But yeah, that's very important. You can't stack them up one after the other. It gives you some buffers and a lot of good things like that.
I learned that the hard way. I stacked them up one after another for a whole day, like every 15 minutes, and you didn't even have time to use the bathroom. So
no, you're exhausted.
Correct. Yeah, it takes some time to sort of collect yourself before the next one. So I do now 1 an hour max.
Yeah,
got you covered. So that again, there's the link across the screen right now. And like I said, we're showing it there. I'd highly encourage you to go take a look at this and see what's going on. So Cheryl, what about you? What questions come to your mind? As a consumer, would this be an interest to you to talk to somebody about, let's face it, right now we have a drainage issue at our house. And I'd love to get somebody that can give me the answer, because I don't want to suck another 200 gallons of water out the next time it rains heavy. So from your aspect, what do you think?
Well, as a person that works a lot, it would definitely be, for me, it would be much easier to give him 30 minutes on a Zoom than it would be for somebody to come in the house, because a woman especially is going to stand there and watch just because, or I would, because it's a knowledge thing. And I like that beginning. I'm a high D, so I like something right now. And I'm sure the virtual's a lot easier to get than a guy coming in. So, Lee, how do you have a rate? Are there a lot of women that will do this, or is it usually the husbands?
50-50. I've even had contractors who schedule it that just don't want to pay for someone's opinion. So it's a way to get that contractor some information, either help them, because some of this is I educate that contractor so he doesn't do dumb stuff with the chimney. So it's a way for me to almost have like an educational class with a contractor one-on-one. And I encourage them, anytime you have issues, anytime you have a chimney where you're not sure, book one of these. It doesn't take a ton of time out of my day. I've done them from my cell phone. I've done them from, this is kind of a little bit of a studio. I've done them from all that stuff. So it works for just about everywhere. And sometimes, yes, you get women who are doing this because their husband. We also get more no-shows with Zoom meetings. And I know Cheryl kind of understands that too. And I've made a habit of, on the time when your meeting starts, I send them a text saying, hey, let me know if you're having any technical problem. And usually when they get that text message, you'll see them log on 5 minutes later.
Oh, okay.
Jerry,
That's good. That's very good information.
One segue question on that. When you're doing a contractor, do you normally, a lot of times after you've done your explanation and you've possibly done gone farther than that, you've educated them at that point, did they return later on to book other jobs without having to go through this?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Sometimes it's them sharing the screen with somebody else's estimate for me to go through their estimate to figure out if it is even feasible, if it works. I've gone over other companies' inspection reports with them just to say, hey man, I'm here to help. This is, my opinions are free when it comes to, we can't drive to your house for free, but my opinions are free this way. And if you have something to share or pictures or questions about a product, this is the way I can help you for free.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Lee, one thing you do is you do a lot of videos, live videos. You're very experienced at this. So is this an area that you use in live video to let consumers know that they have this service?
Yes, we do. And even because it used to be, we would text out a link to the page. And the closure rate on that was not real high. It happens sometimes, but not always. And as soon as our people in the office, like they were scheduled an appointment out in the field, went to our website and booked this appointment for the customer, our closure rates for virtuals went way up.
Okay. Now, I'm also thinking if I've had this face-to-face communication, that I'm building a relationship with this client and I'm building trust with this client, which are two of the key factors in sales, to build the relationship, to build the trust in order to make that initial thing. But then my question comes in, you're not the person that's going to be coming to their house. Someone else is going to be coming to the house. Lee's not going to be doing that in-home inspection. So tell me, how do you explain that to the customer? We're just going to say Cody is the guy and Cody's going to run this call. So I'm presuming when you do this, if they decide they want an on-site, you are scheduling it during the call and letting them know. But how do you assure them that this is going to be a competent technician coming in to do the home assessments?
The same way we always do, which is we always have a certified tech, whichever certification you want to go with these days. But you let them know the process, and it's easier because I always ask them questions. If they have signs of water and I'm like, hey, when's the last time it was had an inspection? And you go through the process. And I found when I sell myself, and I tell every single person too, hey, the guy that's coming out, I trained. I personally put my stamp of approval on him. If he does not do a good job, you call me. Because I tell him it's my fault if he's not good, because it's my job to train these people.
Okay.
So they
So
have
you-
access to talk to me, and that usually they'll basically go, oh, okay, cool.
Okay. So you've developed a relationship. You are selling them on the qualification of the technician coming out to the house as far as that's concerned. So, but again, it's kind of surprised me when you're saying that the majority of the times you're doing this are actually coming from calls coming to the office where Millie in your office actually suggests this as an alternative if they object to your cost. Am I reading this correctly?
Correct. Yeah. Or they don't know what they have. They're not sure, but they don't want to book. It's a way to make sure we get the right person to the right job every time and pre-sold in a lot of situations.
Right. And how important is it that the person that does this assessment be skilled at diagnostics and analysis of the chimney to give the answers? How important is that?
I think it's really, really important because a lot of times you don't see the whole situation, knowing the questions to ask, and also looking for signs in our area. It's often water leaks, to see drips, to see, you have to know some of this stuff. My technicians give me a hard time because they say that every time I say, be careful for this, they say I make stuff happen. And a lot of times it's because I've been doing it for 20 years. I know neighborhoods inside of our city. I know signs, and I can almost predict what's going to happen before they get there.
Oh,
So
I know exactly what I make it rain like that. And my guys are like, how did you know that?
Correct.
Yeah.
Well,
I do that with customers too. And I'm like, look, I don't know this for sure, but I'm going to give you a 20-year educated guess. This is what I think's going to happen. And maybe I'm wrong. There's a chance, but I'm right most of the time.
gotcha. So, Josh, what would you add to this or ask Lee next?
Well, the question is, let's just say it's someone who needs help with batteries or they want you to troubleshoot their gas appliance. Do you ever evolve that into a charge?
Through our virtual assessments, no,
Never.
we don't. Now, I always ask them, even if we like their pilot, what's the last time this has been assessed? What's the last time that has maintenance?
Yeah.
Because I'll tell them, I can light this, but I don't know if we should light this sometimes. So I always give myself a way out, and I'm kind of mushy on bids. You'll see me give large ranges if they're going to approve a range. Because the honest truth is, like Josh said, I'm Nostradamus with a lot of this stuff, but I don't know for sure. And I don't want to set somebody up to fail.
Yeah. Well, I've serviced quite a few gas fireplaces, and I can tell you, okay, I can change that pilot assembly out, clean it, and have it back together in 45 minutes. I can bid pretty quickly like that sometimes.
Sometimes, but you don't know other stuff like terminations, because customers are not going to go up on the roof and show you stuff.
No, they're not.
So the fact that it terminates in the attic, which we've had before, or has some kind of a weird shroud caked in squirrel's nests, you don't know that stuff. So it's hard to say absolutes like, oh, you're good to go. That can't be through, I mean, it can never be technically, but it's definitely not through a Zoom meeting.
Yeah. So Cheryl, what about you? What other questions are hanging out there for you?
Okay. Lee, I know what software you use. So do you record these and put them into Service Titan so your guys can watch them and hear what you've told the customer before they would go out to do the cleaning or whatever?
Excellent
The answer is no, but we're going to do that. Good idea.
You're welcome.
I beat you to that one at least, Lee. You're killing it, but at least I have that one on you.
The answer is I have not done that, but I can.
Okay. So Cheryl, does that answer your question?
Yes, and I'm glad I could help.
Okay. So
I did
Lee, I'm gonna give you a sample repair that you see need to be done. We're gonna say we're looking at the outside of this chimney. We've got a picture of it, and we're seeing significant water staining. We're seeing an absence of a cap. We're seeing a large chimney. And in our mind, we know that this is probably around a $4,500 expenditure is what we're guessing here is that customer's going to have in this. So that's in your mind. Give me your script of telling me what you're going to do and how and what the budget range is going to be when you're estimating in your head it's $4,500. Give me your scripts. Give me your spiel.
My scripts has a lot of questions involved to the customer. So I'm asking them questions. If they're standing on the outside of the chimney, I point it out and say, hey, is that new? Is that old? Why do you think that's going on? Until they ask me, I don't know. And then I provide them like, look, that's generally moisture. And with moisture comes other issues. Have you ever had smells in your house? Have you ever had, I'm trying to connect what's wrong and a symptom that the customer perceives. Because it's real hard to connect what's wrong with no, I don't ever perceive this at all. If you tell them there's water leaking in, they've never seen water, they've never seen traces, that's a harder get. So, and when it comes to repairs, I'm estimating repairs. I'll talk to them. If it's a masonry fireplace, I'll talk to them about flue tire mortar joints. If it doesn't have a cap, that they may be open. If they don't have a screen or anything on top, I can talk about, have you ever had birds or raccoons? And if you can get that symptom concreted and you can remove that symptom based on your diagnosis, that's where you want to go. And then when it comes to bidding, I always make my mistakes high. I would prefer them to be pleasantly surprised when we come out than to be disappointed. So I'm not trying to lowball to get us in the door. If it's at $4,500, I'll tell someone it's going to be somewhere between $25,000 and $10,000.
Okay, so you're giving very wide ranges.
Correct.
You're not giving a low end quote just to get through the door.
No.
You're wanting to qualify them where they are expecting to get it. And if you come in and you hit it dead on the money at $4,500, then you're the hero because it wasn't the $10,000. Am I getting this correctly?
Correct. It sets my technician up to win.
Okay, so that's setting up the technician to win. Okay, so keep going through this. You see this as a successful outreach to bring customers aboard, but to educate the community. Am I correct?
Correct.
Okay. Because I think it was like this week, we heard a sales presentation. And one of the things is that's where you got to be a successful salesperson. You really don't care if they buy or not, but if I get the information across successfully, then I did my job. Am I correct?
You're absolutely correct. Yep.
Okay. So Cheryl, before we end this broadcast, you got any more questions for Lee?
No, not at this point. I think it's a great thing, especially because I'm on the consumer side. I think it would, number one, it saves money. Number two, it gives me an idea. And I just want to thank everybody that's been putting this together, because I'd like to see this in more businesses, as opposed to the chimney service business.
Yeah, I think it would too. Okay, Josh, what about you?
Well, I was going to see if you could eliminate in-home site surveys for these. If you could give someone, hey, we can do, a lot of old clients have FaceTime. If I just need to see if I can put an insert into this fireplace, hey, can you lay on your back and look up? Maybe that would be better. It could save a lot of drive time.
Well, one of the photos that he's requesting is a photo looking through the damper up through the flue. So do you get that photo often for that purpose, Lee?
That's the purpose of that photo. I can tell you, normally we don't get sometimes no photos at all, sometimes half photos. And you know what? I'll take it. And sometimes, like Josh said, while we're on the Zoom meeting, if it is a customer who's capable, sometimes they're not. You're getting little old men or little old women, but you do the best you can. But sometimes it's, hey, can you show me your damper? Shine it up. You can get that. But often, I say more often than not, you don't get the photos you ask for. You get an opportunity.
No, I keep looking at my forms. You know how I am with my forms and stuff. And it'll say, I need floor to ceiling. And it'll be like, hey, not this photo. I need this photo. But what do you still get? You get something where they're zoomed in just like this. And you're like, that's not what I asked you for. I don't need to set up. I can't see through your brass doors. And then detailed instructions from your Calendar is going to be a big part of that as well. That's something I've learned is, hey, things to make this go successful. Have a flashlight handy, have a tape measure handy, and any other things like that ahead of time. And then also I have excessive amount of reminders on mine to where it says like okay, your meeting's coming up 10 minutes, 5 minutes, and
Right.
you know, on the time for those reasons that you say.
Yep. Sometimes I'm just happy when they show up.
Yeah.
So showing up with flashlight, without just show up. We'll figure this out somehow.
Yeah.
Because anything's better than nothing. And
Absolutely.
once I get you on the screen with me, you're going to be sold. I mean, because we're going to educate you. You're going to figure out some of the predetermined things, even teaching new homeowners how to use a fireplace. I've seen Josh has a great video of preheating flues and a wood stove, bellowing smoke out into a showroom, you know, but we can walk through some of that stuff. I can educate you, and it really, you can provide a lot of value.
Yep.
Well, I call it coming out of your comfort zone here, Lee, and that's what you've done. What you've got to do, and like we've talked the last couple of weeks, and Cheryl, you and Chuck talked about it on last week's broadcast. What's your plan for 2024? I think we all know that business is going to get tougher. We're in an election year. We got wars going on. We got interest rates that are unstable. And to be successful, you've got to come out of that comfort zone and you got to try new things. Okay. And this is a new thing. Lee, how long did it take you to get this set up and feeling confident in doing this?
For me, I've been in customers' houses so many times. It took me about a week. Setting up took a little longer. We worked with our web company and they worked with the Calendly. They got all that set up and kind of turned it over to them, but it came pretty natural. And one of the big benefits for us is as we're seeing call volumes go down, we're trying to increase the booking percentages, get more out of what we have. This is a way for a customer who would have gone away confused or not 100% to book that into an actual job. So as it just helps a lot in filling the schedule.
Yeah. And I think that's what we got to do. And I mean, no offense, I think there's so often that we don't show the patience to a prospective customer. You know, like I said, this was really neat. One of the things I heard you say was if a customer complains about the cost of doing an on-site, then Millie is suggesting this as an alternative, correct? It doesn't say, hey, yeah, well, we just don't want to do business with you. Both hang up, and then we don't have the best words for that person. But I try to tell people, hey, think like the customer. If you are the customer, how do you feel? And I think that's where a lot of people need to be more into it. And Chuck's got a good comment here. Okay, so how about that question, Lee? Is it your experience that the client is more receptive to, since they are not pressured having the tech in their face? Do you think that is a benefit?
Sure. I think I talk to customers I normally would not be able to talk to. And even the customers, because a lot of times I listen to the phone call of that customer having a price concern initially. And then by the end of our Zoom meeting, they're agreeing to the price and they're scheduling an appointment because now they see the value of, oh, yes, there's cheaper options, but I want this.
Okay. Do you also bring up, if we're talking about the cost, do you tell them that you offer financing for large repairs? Does that come up in the discussion?
Yeah, we try not to use the F word, but yeah, financing.
Why do you not want to use it?
We use payment plans. We use what's the other one we use? We have specials, stuff like that. But financing, if you ask somebody, do you need financing? The answer is always no. Or
Well,
we have financing available.
I'm not saying that we ask them, do you need financing? I'm just asking, do we bring it up that we can provide financing for this? I mean, this is the problem. A lot of times we're hitting the customer with repair costs and they're not expecting this. I think that's a big thing that consumers call somebody out to their house. And Rob Lindeman said this years ago, people call you to their house, they're expecting to spend a couple $100 for a service and then find out it's going to cost them thousands of dollars to have what they thought they had before you ever showed up. So they're not expecting this. So I think just bringing up that discussion that we do have abilities to stretch this out. If you think financing is a bad word, then coming up, but we do have programs that can do that can take care of this, because I think you got to get past the shock.
Yep. Payment plans. But yeah, we have all the financing. I'll use the F word. We have all that stuff set up for customers, and it's about affordability. You know, yes, it's still expensive, but now it's more affordable. I can afford the monthly payments, but I can't afford a one-time expense.
Got you covered. Well, I think this is helpful information. I think it is a outside the box concept. I know that it works because I did it in my own business years ago. We suggested, a lot of people did this when COVID came out, and you're one of the ones that keeps on with this, along with some other people. I just thought of you today whenever we were doing this broadcast, and why I asked you if you would come on as our guest today. So if you're listening to us on the replay or live, we hope this has been some good information for you. This has been this week's episode of the CVC Home Service Success Network. We do this show every Friday, 12 noon Eastern time, but same thing, we are up on replays, and we're also on many of your favorite podcast channels. So let us know how we can help you move to the business of your dreams. And we appreciate you joining us. And Lee, really want to thank you for being with us today. I know it was a stretch to get here, but I really appreciate it. So I'll be talking to everybody later. We'll see you next week on our next episode.